My life has turned into a daily marathon of 913 days. I was a nurse, a wife, and, as it seemed to me, a savior. I thought I was crazy. I saw something that shouldn't have happened. One day, deciding to test my paranoia, I installed a hidden camera, and what I saw destroyed not only my marriage, but my entire reality. This is the story of the most monstrous lie I've ever had to endure, and how I regained my freedom. My name is Sarah Evert, and for the last 2.5 years, my position has been a spouse nurse. I used to work as a communications consultant. I had clients, tight deadlines, and career goals. Now my key project is my husband, Leo, who is bedridden after a serious traffic accident. Today was especially exhausting. Leo's blood pressure fluctuated sharply. He was picky, refused lunch, and complained of hunger an hour later. By evening, I felt drained to the very limit. I sat in the armchair at the head of his bed, staring blankly at the wall while he watched some drama series on his tablet. "Sar, I want water." His voice was both weak and demanding. I got up without a word and trudged into the kitchen. My legs hurt and my back ached. While I was pouring drinking water into a tall glass, I heard a muffled thump from the room. He probably dropped something again. When I returned, I saw his mobile phone lying on the carpet at the foot of the bed, at a considerable distance. Even if I bent down, I would have to stretch with effort. "Leo, you dropped your smartphone. I'm going to pick it up now." "No need. I don't want to anymore." He waved his hand away. "Just give me some water." I handed him a glass with a curved straw, helped him drink, put the cup on the bedside table, and headed back to the kitchen to put the jug away. It took no more than 60 seconds. When I returned to the bedroom to pick up the dirty dishes, I froze on the threshold. The phone was on the bedside table next to the glass, neat and tidy. I slowly shifted my gaze from the mobile phone to my husband. He calmly watched his show as if nothing unusual had happened. "Leo," I tried to sound firm, "how did you pick up the phone?" He looked up from the screen, and there was a flicker of annoyance in his eyes. "What is it? A phone number?" He was lying on the floor. I saw it myself. Leo exhaled heavily, showing unbearable fatigue. "For God's sake, Sar, you're exhausted." He didn't fall to the floor. He was lying on the bedspread. I grabbed it somehow with my hand, barely reached it. "You're already seeing things that aren't there." But he was lying on the hard floor right next to the foot. I couldn't get it without getting out of bed. "So you imagined it." He raised his voice. "You're overworked. You're always imagining things. I'd rather take a nap. You look terrible. Your suspicions are going to cause my blood pressure to spike again." He turned back to the display, making it clear that the conversation was over, and I stood there as if I had been struck by lightning. It couldn't have seemed to me. I could clearly see the dark rectangle on the light laminate, and I knew for sure that he couldn't grab it from the blanket because the phone was lying almost 5 feet away from him. I silently gathered up the items and left the room. In the kitchen, I leaned my forehead against the cold refrigerator door. Was I imagining things, or was I really losing my mind from exhaustion and hopelessness? But somewhere deep inside, under a thick layer of compassion and commitment, a piercing, unpleasant feeling stirred. The first tiny grain of doubt fell into my soul. The next day, Jenna called, my only friend who hadn't disappeared from my horizon after Leon's accident. All the others somehow disappeared unnoticed, unable to withstand the atmosphere of our home, saturated with the smell of medicines and despair. "Hello, Sar. How are you?" "Hi," as usual. I sat down on a chair in the hallway so Leo wouldn't hear. "It's better today. His indicators are normal. He even ate with interest." "I'm not talking about him. I'm talking about you." Her voice over the speaker was resolute. "Are you okay?" I sighed. There was no point in lying to Jenna. "I'm tired, Jen. I'm just incredibly tired. Sometimes it feels like it's never going to stop. There was a strange episode yesterday, and I told her the gist of the story about the smartphone, about how it was lying on the floor, and a minute later it ended up on the bedside table, about Leo's irritated reaction and his accusations of my fatigue. I expected Jenna, as always, to try to calm me down, to tell me that I was just winding myself up, but she was silent for a few seconds, and then she said something I didn't expect at all. Sar, listen to me carefully. Of course, I'm not accusing him of anything, but for 2.5 years, are you sure that reality is exactly as he describes it? I was taken aback. What do you mean? In the most direct way, you're exhausting yourself. You look like a ghost. And he's not making any progress at all, not one bit. Maybe the doctor said something? Is there any prospect? The doctors say that the situation is difficult. Spinal cord injury, the probability is minimal. You know that. I know, Jenna replied sharply. I also know that you believe every word he says. What if he just adapted? Are you used to fussing over him, that your whole life is centered around his bed? Maybe he's just manipulating you? Eh? Her words hurt. Jen, what are you saying? He's paralyzed. He's helpless. And you? Her voice became hard. Do you remember the last time you bought anything other than groceries when you were at an art gallery? You can't even get a decent haircut because you won't leave him for long. Sarah, I love you, and it hurts me to see what you've become. Just think. Don't reject it right away. Notice the little things. A smartphone is no longer a small thing. I was silent, not knowing what to say. Part of me wanted to scream at her, hang up on her, protect my unhappy husband from these terrible suspicions. But the other part, the one that froze on the threshold of the bedroom yesterday, was saying in an icy whisper, I have to. Go, I said dully. Leo will be taking his medicine soon. Okay, just promise me you'll think about what I'm saying, Jenna said urgently. I'll think about it. Bye. I hung up. Her heart was pounding, and her words were cruel and unfair, but hit home. I sat down on the floor right in the hallway and put my head in my hands. What if it's not my persecution complex? What if I'm living in a lie, a terrible, monstrous lie that I help create every day? After talking to Jenna, I began to take a closer look. I became a secret watcher in my own home. I fixed in my memory how the glossy magazine lay on the table, at what angle the controller stood on the bedside table, how the blanket was folded. I felt like an idiot, but I couldn't stop myself. Leo didn't seem to notice anything, only complained of pain more often and demanded attention. Everything was as usual for a couple of days. I was already beginning to think that Jenna had needlessly sowed these seeds of doubt in me, and the case with the smartphone was really a figment of my tired imagination. But then I saw the damage. I was mopping the bedroom floors. Leo lay with his eyes closed, listening to an audiobook on headphones. I pulled back the light curtain to wipe under the window and froze. There was a fresh white line on the light maple floor, right by the radiator. It wasn't deep, but it was obvious, as if someone had dragged the edge of the chair. But the only chair in the room was at the desk in the opposite corner. Leo couldn't reach the window from his bed, and yesterday when I was vacuuming, that line definitely wasn't there. I straightened up, my heart pounding faster. No one came to us yesterday. It was just the two of us all day. I didn't go near that window. Leo, I went to the bed and pulled one of the headphones out of his ear. He opened his eyes in displeasure. What else? I told you not to interfere. Take a look. I pointed to the window. Where did this scratch on the floor come from? Did someone move the chair? He squinted, looked in the indicated direction, then at me. His face instantly turned to stone. Are you crazy? Are you playing detective? What kind of scratch? Here, by the battery, it's fresh. It wasn't visible yesterday. And what do you want me to say? His voice began to gain momentum. What did I do? Maybe it was you who moved it when you adjusted your curtains? I forgot. Stop interrogating me. I didn't move the chair, Leo. I couldn't help myself either. It was just us at home. And then he exploded. Why are you bothering me with your scratch? Are you completely out of your mind with boredom? Or do you just enjoy torturing me? Yes, to remind you once again that I am a helpless cripple. Do you think I jumped up, ran there, moved my chair to look outside, and jumped back into my bunk? Are you even out of your mind? He was screaming, his face red, his hands clenched into fists. He didn't look like an unhappy patient, but an enraged predator caught in a deception. And that rage scared me more than the scream. She was too real, too disproportionate to my innocent question. I took a step back, feeling my insides freeze. I'm sorry, I whispered. I didn't mean to. Go away, he growled. Leave me alone. I slipped out of the room, closing the door behind me. His furious reaction was the last straw. It wasn't the hurt of a sick person, it was the horror of exposure. And at that moment, I realized I have to find out the truth at any cost. That evening, after Leo fell asleep, I sat down at my laptop and ordered a small, almost indistinguishable action camera with a remote access function from an online store. The camera arrived after one day, a small black cube that could easily be hidden anywhere. I didn't sleep all night, going over the plan in my head. He was simple and cruel. I felt like a traitor, but there was no turning back. In the morning, I walked into the bedroom looking as miserable as I could. Morning, he muttered, still offended after our quarrel. I sat down on the edge of the bed. Leo, my mom just called me. She's not feeling well at all. Her heart has seized up. She asks me to come. His face immediately changed. The resentment disappeared, replaced by anxiety, fake, as I now realized. How bad is it? What happened? What about me? She couldn't really speak. Crying, he says, pressure is 195 over 110. I have to go, Leo. It's Mom. Her town is only 4.5 hours away. I'm here for a couple of days, no more. For a couple of days? There was a note of panic in his voice. Sriracha, how can I be here alone, and if something happens? Who will help me? Maybe you won't go. I looked into his frightened eyes and felt sick. What a good actor he is. You have to, Leo. Don't worry. I'll prepare everything, put the food in the fridge. You will only need to reheat it in the microwave. I'll sort the medications by time, and I asked Ryan to keep an eye on it. At the mention of Ryan, his closest friend, Leo relaxed a little. And Ryan visited us often, helped a friend, as he said, brought groceries, sometimes sat with Leo so I could run to the pharmacy or just get some air. Ryan's coming. Well, if Ryan is there, then, of course, go to your mom. She needs it more now. I started defiantly packing my travel bag, throwing the first few things into it. My hands were shaking. Then I went to the kitchen to cook. I sliced salads, made meatballs, and made soup. Everything is as usual, just like for a beloved, helpless husband. When Leo dozed off after lunch, it was time to act. I took the camera and went into the bedroom. There was a bookshelf in the corner of the room, which I hadn't gotten around to for a long time. I quickly shoved the tiny cube between the Faulkner and Hemingway volumes, aiming the lens at the bed and most of the room. The camera was almost invisible. I connected it to our Wi-Fi and checked the image on my phone. The picture was clear. Leo is a sleeper in a bed. Before I left, I went up to him. Well, that's it. I'm off. I'll call you when I get there. Ryan's coming over tonight. Just lie down, rest. Don't worry about me. He took my hand in his, as it always seemed to me, weak hand. Come back soon, Sorochka. I'm going to miss you very much. And me, I managed, barely able to contain my disgust. I kissed him on the forehead and left the apartment, but I didn't go to the transit hub. I drove to the edge of town and checked into the simplest roadside motel I could find called the Sunset Motel. I sat down on the creaky bed, took out my laptop, opened the video viewer, and stared at the broadcast of our bedroom. My trap has snapped shut. It remains only to wait for the beast. The first hour was torture. I sat there, staring at the screen, and nothing happened. Leo woke up, turned on the TV, looked at his phone. I saw him call me, but I declined the call by sending a text message. The express shuttle has a bad signal. I'll dial it later. He put down his phone and continued watching some kind of program. Another hour passed, and another. I started to feel like a complete idiot. It seemed to me that I had made everything up, that my persecution mania was destroying our family. And now I'm sitting in this squalid motel while my poor sick husband is suffering alone at home. The guilt started to suffocate me. Should I call him and tell him that the shuttle is broken down and I'm coming back? I was about to reach for the phone when something changed on the laptop screen. Leo turned off the TV and lay for a few minutes, staring at the ceiling. And then he did something that stopped my breathing. He sat up in bed. He just sat down, without my help, without effort. Then he slowly, as if with pleasure, threw back the blanket and swung his legs to the floor. He sat there for a minute and then got up. He got back on his feet. I put my hand over my mouth to keep from screaming. He was standing in the middle of the room where he had spent 2.5 years lying down. He stretched, flexing his stiff shoulders and back, and did a few bends. The movements were confident and strong. He was not a man who was learning to walk again. He was a healthy man. My husband, my helpless patient, strode confidently out of the bedroom. I heard the refrigerator door slam in the kitchen. A minute later, he returned with a bottle of pale lager in his hand, flopped back onto the bed, opened it, and took a long drink. At that moment, his phone rang. Leo answered, and I turned on the sound in the app. The voice in the speaker was painfully familiar to me. It was Ryan. "Well, are you free?" Ryan asked cheerfully. "That's it," Leo burst out laughing. His laughter, which I hadn't heard in 30 months, hurt my ears. "Yes," my overseer took off. She went to her mother. "For a long time," she said. "For a couple of days. Finally, damn it, freedom. I've already warmed up and had a beer. Listen, come on, row up to me. Let's sit like people. Get some more beer and some snacks." "Welcome. Listen, aren't you so openly afraid? She won't be back until tomorrow evening." "That's right. We'll have time to clean up." "I'm so tired of lying down, Ryan. You can't imagine. My back just falls off." "And the wheelchair? Why don't you at least move to a chair for decency?" Leo burst out laughing again, and it made my vision go dark. "What kind of chair? I've already forgotten how to sit in it." "It's okay. We'll break through. The main thing is to make it to the payment of the insurance indemnity. There's very little left, and then at least to the end of the world." I looked at the screen, at the laughing face of the man to whom I had given more than 2 years of my life. The shock passed. In its place came an icy, calm, all-consuming rage. The world didn't collapse. It just regained its true, ugly shape. I slowly closed the laptop. There were no tears. There was only one desire, to return home and look them in the eye. The drive from the motel to the house seemed like an eternity. I drove the car automatically, not noticing any traffic lights or other cars. There was an absolute ringing emptiness in my head. All emotions burned out, leaving behind only cold ashes of determination. I parked in the next block, so as not to scare them off ahead of time. The lights were on in our apartment windows. From there came the muffled sounds of a musical composition and laughter. My house, my quiet abode of sorrow, has turned into a place of merry revelry. I went up to the floor, trying to tread as quietly as possible. The key in the lock turned almost soundlessly. I pushed open the door and entered the hallway. The music was playing louder, and there was a smell of fried chicken and beer. I took off my shoes and tiptoed into the living room. The picture I saw is forever etched in my memory. Leo and Ryan were sitting at our dining table, which had been serving as a medicine warehouse for the past 2.5 years. The table was filled with bottles and plates of food. They were arguing and laughing animatedly about something. At the very moment when I entered, Leo was just getting up from the table to get another beer from the kitchen. He was standing with his back to me, absolutely healthy and straight. Ryan noticed me first. His smile faded from his face. Her eyes widened in horror. He nudged Leo in the side. "Oh, Sarah." Leo slowly turned around. When he saw me standing in the doorway, his face turned chalk white. The bottle he was holding in his hand slipped out and fell to the carpet with a thud. "Sarah." His voice was barely a whisper. You're at Mom's." There was a deafening silence in the room. The music seemed to play 100 times louder, emphasizing the absurdity and horror of what was happening. I looked at my husband, who was standing on his own 2 feet, and at his friend, who was frozen with his mouth open. I took a step forward. "Mom's recovered." My voice sounded surprisingly calm, even steely. I looked around the table at their terrified faces. I see that everything is back to normal here, too. The legs walk, the handles hold the lager. A miraculous healing Leo right in front of my eyes. Leo swallowed hard. He took a step back and literally collapsed into a chair as if his legs could no longer support him. But it was too late. The masquerade was over. "Sarah, I can explain everything," he stammered. I slowly walked over to the table and picked up a bottle of beer. "Come on, explain it. I'm all ears. I'm especially interested in how you learned to walk during the 3.5 hours that I was away from home. Is this some kind of new breakthrough technique?" Ryan jumped up. "Sarah, calm down. Let's talk." "Sit down," I ordered, not looking at him. And to my surprise, he sat down. I looked straight into my husband's eyes. All my pain, all my fatigue, all my humiliation for 2.5 years were concentrated in that look, the pause before the storm. And I knew that this storm would sweep them both away. Leo opened and closed his mouth like a stranded fish. He tried to say something, but the words stuck in his throat. Ryan was the first to recover. He was always more quirky. "Sar, that's not how you interpreted it," he began, an insinuating voice. This is an experimental treatment. Innovative. Leo got better just the other day. We didn't want to tell you so as not to jinx it. We wanted to make a surprise." I smiled bitterly. Surprise. What a wonderful surprise. Especially the lager with chips. Is this part of the therapy? "This is a temporary improvement," Leo said, grasping at this pathetic straw. "You know, the doctor said, it happens. I got up, then I could go back to bed for years. I'm shocked myself." He looked at me with pleading eyes, still hoping that his lie would work, that I would believe him again, feel sorry for him again. But I have no pity left. I silently took my phone out of my pocket, found the file I needed, and turned it on at full volume. An image of our bedroom appeared on the small screen. And so Leo gets out of bed, pulls himself up, and then his own cheerful voice rang out, amplified by the phone speaker. Yes, my overseer got out. Finally, damn it, freedom. What kind of chair? I've already forgotten how to sit in it. The main thing is to make it to the payment of the insurance indemnity, and then at least to the end of the world. Leo's face twisted. He looked at the phone as if it was a venomous snake. "From where, Sarah? Look, it's not what you think. I'll make it clear. It's for us, for the insurance. We would have received money and lived like people." And then I burst out. All the pain that I had been saving up for 2.5 years burst out in a deafening scream. For us, you've turned 2.5 years of my life into a nightmare. I quit my job, my friends, and myself. I was washing your back while you were lying there laughing at me. You and your accomplice. Did you think I was a stupid simpleton who would put up with everything? I threw his beer bottle at the wall. It shattered with a deafening clang. Ryan jerked. Sar, don't get angry. Let's talk. Shut up, traitor. I turned to face him, and he recoiled from the fury in my eyes. You knew everything. You came here, looked me in the eye, hypocritically asked if I needed help, and you were his accomplice. There will be another conversation with you in the department. In what other department? Leo squeaked in alarm. Sorochka, please don't. Let's figure it out for ourselves. I'll give you everything. I don't need anything from you anymore. I spoke softly, but my every word was filled with steel. A copy of this record has already been sent to my lawyer and the American Trust Fund's email address, and now I'm calling the police for fraud on a particularly large scale. I took out my phone and started dialing 911. Leo rushed to me, tried to grab the phone, but I pushed him away. He did not expect resistance and staggered. There was animal fear in his eyes. Sarah, don't do this. You're going to ruin my life. You broke mine, I replied, holding the phone to my ear, and I'm just putting everything in its place. 3 months have passed. Autumn has come into its own, painting the city in gold and crimson. I was sitting in a cozy bistro in the city center, drinking a hot vanilla latte and watching people rushing about their business. I was wearing a new elegant coat and shoes with small heels. I felt like I'd woken up from a long, painful dream. The door of the establishment rang with a bell, and Jenna entered. She smiled when she saw me. Hey. Oh, come on. You look absolutely stunning. New haircut. Hi. Yes, I decided it was time to change something, I smiled back. She sat down across from me and ordered. Well, how are our Broadway stars? I took a sip of my coffee. There is. Both are under investigation. Large-scale fraud, collusion. The insurance company filed its claim, and I filed mine. The lawyer says it's a sure thing. The evidence is irrefutable. They'll probably go down. Ryan is trying to blame everything on Leo on him. It's a pathetic sight. I got my divorce last week. Congratulations on the divorce, not the conclusion. Jenna smiled slyly. How are you holding up? I looked out the window. My heart was surprisingly calm. There was no anger or hatred, just a slight sadness for those 2 years that were erased from my life. You know, at first I kept going over it in my head, trying to figure out how I could be so blind, blaming myself, and then I realized it's not my fault. I just loved and trusted them, and they took advantage of it. It's their low act, not mine. Absolutely, Jenna nodded. Are you back at work? Yes, it's been a month. They took me back to my old firm, even with a promotion. The boss said he needed such dedicated people. I chuckled. The irony of fate. We were silent for a while, each thinking about his own. A fine autumn rain was drizzling outside the window, but it no longer seemed gray and dreary to me. He was just washing away old dirt. I thought for 30 months that I was saving him, I said softly, looking at Jenna. That this is my cross, my duty, that I am strong and will withstand everything. But it turned out that I had to save myself, from him, from this lie, from a life that did not belong to me. Jenna reached across the table and covered my hand. You did it, Sar. You're very strong. I squeezed her fingers back, and for the first time in a long time, I smiled really, sincerely. For the first time in 2.5 years, I'm breathing deeply, planning my future, thinking about what I want, and not someone else. And that, Jen, is an incredible feeling.
What kind?
A feeling of freedom.